The courtroom froze the moment the teen laughed. "Aren't you like ancient?" he sneered, loud enough for everyone to hear. His designer watch gleamed under the lights as he leaned back, smirking, certain the world revolved around him. Judge Judy didn't blink. She simply closed the file in front of her slowly. His smirk started to fade, because in the next 25 seconds everything changed. And when you hear what happened next, you're going to be shocked too. The laugh still hung in the air like smoke, sharp, arrogant, impossible to ignore. Even after it stopped, the echo lived in the silence, daring someone to challenge it. Judge Judy lifted her eyes, and the room seemed to hold its breath. The fluorescent lights hummed above the courtroom, a thin mechanical sound that usually faded into the background. But today, even that hum felt tense, like it was waiting for what would happen next. Brandon Hale, 17, wealthy, and convinced the world owed him applause, lounged in his chair as if he were in a private VIP booth rather than facing a civil hearing. His smirk pulsed with the same confidence that had made him sneer moments earlier, calling Judge Judy ancient, as if disrespect were a privilege granted by a last name. The plaintiff, Luis Ortega, stood a few feet away. Oil stains still clung to the edges of his fingernails, a mark of the garage he worked in, a life far removed from designer watches and curated arrogance. His eyes stayed lowered, though not from weakness, more from the disbelief that someone could laugh at the very process meant to make things right. Judge Judy slowly closed the file in front of her, each inch of movement deliberate. It was the kind of gesture that did not need volume to be loud. The courtroom shifted, shoulders tightened. Even the bailiff straightened a little, as if sensing electric tension building under the floorboards. Brandon noticed, but only slightly. He tapped his heel against the leg of his chair, a steady percussion of entitlement. "Can we get this over with?" he muttered, not fully under his breath. Judge Judy did not acknowledge the comment. Instead, she angled her head with the precision of someone choosing the exact moment to fire the first shot. "Mr. Hale," she said, voice calm but sharp enough to slice through the air, "would you like to explain that laugh?" The smirk flickered. For the first time, he seemed unsure whether she was joking, and unsure whether he should have laughed in the first place. "I mean, it was just a joke," he said, waving a dismissive hand. "A joke." Judy repeated it without raising her volume, yet somehow the word grew heavier, settling on him like a weight he had not expected. "Tell me, what exactly about this process is funny to you?" He opened his mouth but found nothing ready. Silence stretched, thin but tense, like a rope pulled too tight. Lewis watched, quietly absorbing the shift. This was the first moment Brandon's confidence wavered, the first tiny crack showing beneath the surface polish. Judy leaned forward slightly. "Perhaps you would like to begin by explaining why your vehicle ended up damaging Mr. Ortega's property." The laugh was gone now, replaced by something else, a subtle tightening at the corner of Brandon's mouth, a pulse of uncertainty. But before he could respond, Lewis lifted a hand hesitantly. "Your Honor, I think there's something you should see first." The room pivoted toward him. Lewis swallowed, his voice suddenly fragile but determined. "There is a detail Brandon left out, and I brought proof." Judge Judy's hand hovered over the file, ready, waiting, as the tension snapped open like a door. Brandon's confidence faltered not much, just a flicker, barely the width of a breath. But in a courtroom where silence speaks louder than shouting, that flicker was everything. Judge Judy saw it, and for the first time so did he. Lewis stepped forward with cautious resolve, the kind a man learns after years of being talked over by people who think money echoes louder than truth. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the memory of everything leading up to this moment. He reached into a worn folder and pulled out a single photograph. Judge Judy tilted her head. "Let us see it." The photo slid across the bench like a quiet accusation. Judy picked it up without breaking eye contact with Lewis. When she finally looked at the image, her eyebrows lifted only a fraction, but the room felt it. Even Brandon shifted in his seat. The image showed the garage entrance. Metal frame dented inward, tire marks across the concrete, fragments of red paint still stuck to the edge. A luxury shade of red. "Mr. Hale," Judy said softly, "does this belong to your vehicle?" Brandon's jaw tensed. It might be similar, hard to tell from that angle. Judy tapped the photo once. "It is not the angle that concerns me. It is the fact that your car is the only one in this case with that exact color code." Lewis exhaled Hakily. For the first time since the hearing began, his shoulders eased. Brandon leaned back, recovering his bravado. "Look, I told you it was barely a tap. This guy is exaggerating for a payday." Lewis's head jerked up. "A payday? I had to close my shop for 2 days to repair that damage. 2 days of income gone. I'm not here to get rich. I'm here because you refuse to speak to me like a person." The words hit the space between them like a blunt force. The gallery murmured, some in disbelief, others in recognition. They had seen this kind of arrogance before, but rarely this unfiltered. Judge Judy lifted her hand. The room quieted instantly. Her gaze locked on Brandon. "Did you refuse to speak to him?" Brandon shrugged, but his voice came out thinner than before. "He was overreacting. I just didn't have time to deal with it." A thin smile touched Judy's lips, not amusement, but understanding. People who do not take responsibility often say they did not have time. Brandon's smirk cracked again. Then Judy placed the photo down and folded her hands. "Lewis mentioned earlier that there is more evidence, something you are not aware of. Is that correct?" Lewis nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." The tension in the room wound itself tight, like every heartbeat synchronized with the next reveal. Judy motioned with her chin. "Show us." Lewis hesitated only for a breath, then reached into the folder again. This time he pulled out a printed screenshot, a social media screenshot. Brandon's posture stiffened before the image was even turned around. Lewis placed the screenshot on the bench, and the color drained from Brandon's face. Judge Judy leaned forward, curiosity sharpening. "Mr. Ortega, what exactly am I looking at?" The monitor flickered before anyone touched it, a glow rising like a warning. Brandon's confidence evaporated one heartbeat at a time. He knew that screen, that interface, and exactly what might be coming. Lewis lifted the printed screenshot with careful hands and passed it to the clerk. The clerk delivered it to Judge Judy, who studied it for only a moment before her eyes shifted toward the courtroom monitor. "Is this connected to a video?" she asked. Lewis nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. The full clip is on the flash drive I submitted." A ripple moved through the audience, the kind that always appears right before truth steps into the room. Brandon's fingers twitched against the table, tapping a frantic rhythm he tried to mask as impatience. Judge Judy gestured firmly. "Play it." The lights dimmed slightly as the monitor came to life. The opening frame appeared. Brandon in a parking lot, laughing with 2 friends, the front of his red sports car filling most of the shot. The audio crackled, then sharpened. "Watch this," Video Brandon said, swagger dripping from each syllable. Lewis looked down, bracing himself. The video continued. Brandon revved the engine, jerked forward, clipped the garage frame, and then burst out laughing like it was a party trick. His friends howled with him. The camera shook with laughter. Then came the part that made the room go still. "Video Brandon, I'll just blame the guy. Who's gonna believe some mechanic over me, please?" The gallery inhaled as one, a quiet, horrified sound. The real Brandon stared at the screen, lips parted, blinking rapidly. For the first time his expression lacked strategy. No smirk, no defiance, just impact. Judge Judy did not look at the video. She watched Brandon instead, the way his shoulders slowly curled inward, the way his breath faltered. She waited until the clip ended before she spoke. Mr. Hale, she said, voice low and measured, is that your video? Brandon swallowed. It was taken out of context. The room reacted instantly, gasps, a few whispers, one muffled laugh from the back. Judy exhaled sharply, not amused. Out of context. Those are your words, your actions, your laughter, your intention. Brandon clenched his jaw. People joke around. It was stupid, okay? Just a stupid moment. Everyone says things they do mean. Lewis looked up then, meeting Brandon's eyes not with anger but something heavier. Disappointment, hurt, humanity. Maybe, Lewis said quietly, but most people do not film themselves hurting someone and bragging about it. The simplicity of the statement cut deeper than any accusation. Judge Judy lifted the screenshot again, aligning it beside the paused video frame. Mr. Hale, your online post mocked the incident. You captioned it, "Mechanics will fix anything, especially their attitudes." Care to explain that? Brandon opened his mouth, but no words came. The silence grew thick, stretching across the courtroom like a shadow. Then the side door clicked open. Everyone turned. Brandon's mother stepped inside, breathless, face pale, clutching something to her chest, something she looked terrified to reveal. Her eyes darted to Brandon, full of panic. "Judge, I need to speak." And in that moment, the courtroom understood. The truth ran deeper than anyone thought. The door had barely closed behind her when the temperature of the room shifted. A mother's fear can silence even arrogance, and Brandon felt the shift before anyone said a word. Judge Judy's eyes followed the trembling woman, already sensing there was more truth waiting to break the surface. Brandon's mother clutched a thin binder to her chest so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Her steps were hurried, uneven, as if she had run here against her better judgment. Brandon looked away the moment she entered, his posture collapsing into something smaller, a stark contrast to the swagger he had worn minutes earlier. Judge Judy lifted her hand gently. "Ma'am, take a breath, then tell me why you are interrupting these proceedings." The woman inhaled, exhaled, and swallowed hard. "Your Honor, I did not want this to happen. I thought I could handle it myself. I thought I could keep it from getting this far." Her voice shook. "But Brandon has not been honest with you." A low murmur rippled through the gallery. Brandon shot upright. "Mom, stop." "Sit," Judge Judy commanded without raising her volume. He sank back instantly. The mother took a few steps forward. "Brandon did not tell me everything either, but I found out last night. And when I saw the video just now, I knew I had to say something." Judy's gaze sharpened with quiet intensity. "What exactly did you discover?" The woman hesitated, her fingers trembling against the binder, her eyes flicking toward her son with a mixture of love and dread. He was not supposed to be driving that car at all. The insurance paperwork. "Mom," Brandon's voice cracked. It was not anger this time, it was fear. Judge Judy paused. "Not supposed to be driving, why not?" The mother opened the binder with slow, reluctant fingers. A single page slid out, landing face up on the bench. The header was unmistakable. Notice of suspended minor license, operating privileges revoked. A sharp inhale moved through the gallery like a gust of cold air. Judy sat back slightly. "Mr. Hale," she said, voice steady but colder now, "your license was suspended." Brandon's breathing quickened. "It was only temporary. I was going to get it reinstated. It is not a big deal." "Not a big deal," Judy repeated, her tone cutting with surgical precision. "You illegally operated a vehicle, caused property damage, mocked the victim, and then publicly humiliated him online, and you believe that is not a big deal." Brandon's mother closed her eyes as though the weight of her son's choices finally crushed the last of her denial. "I enabled him," she whispered. "I let him talk me into excuses. I thought it was just attitude, not this." Judy looked at her with a measured softness. "You are doing the right thing now." The mother nodded weakly. "There is more, Your Honor. Something I found this morning in his room. I think it is important." Brandon's eyes widened, panic rising through his voice. "Mom, do not." But the words died when she lifted a sealed white envelope. She placed it gently on Judy's bench. Judge Judy tapped the envelope once, feeling its unexpected weight. "What is inside this, Mrs. Hale?" The mother almost whispered her reply, something he hoped no one would ever see. The envelope sat between them like a quiet threat. Not loud, not dramatic, just heavy with whatever truth Brandon never intended to face. Judge Judy slid it closer, her expression unreadable, but her eyes already preparing for impact. The room seemed to shrink when the seal tore. Paper does not make much sound, yet everyone heard it, a soft rip that sliced through Brandon's last line of defense. Judge Judy opened the flap with deliberate care, as if peeling back a lie layer by layer. Brandon stared straight ahead, not blinking, jaw clenched so tightly the tension pulsed down his neck. Inside the envelope was a small file, thinner than expected, but no less dangerous. Judy lifted the first page, scanned it, and the smallest shift appeared in her posture. Not shock, not anger, something colder, recognition. She set the page down. "Mr. Hale, how many incidents like this have there been?" Brandon's eyes darted toward his mother, betrayal mixing with fear. "Mom, what did you do?" His mother shook her head. "I did what I should have done the first time." Judge Judy pressed her palm flat on the page. "According to this report, there was a previous complaint filed against you for property damage and harassment. The complainant withdrew, but not before providing a written statement." A stunned hush rolled through the gallery. Lewis's brow tightened, a flicker of sorrow more than surprise. "What statement?" Brandon asked, voice thin, barely tethered to defiance. Judy lifted the document. "The complainant claimed that after damaging their property, you pressured them into dropping the case. Through intimidation, through online humiliation, through messages I do not think you expected anyone to read." Brandon's throat bobbed. "People exaggerate. You cannot trust everything someone writes." "Oh," Judy replied calmly. "Then perhaps you would like to explain the attached evidence." She turned the page. A printed transcript slid into view, lines of text highlighted in pale yellow. The courtroom leaned forward as if gravity had shifted. Lewis whispered, "He did it before." Judy began to read aloud, her voice steady, each word landing with the weight of judgment. "Drop the complaint or I will ruin you online. People, listen to me. Nobody will care about you." Gasps cracked through the room like breaking glass. Brandon's mother covered her mouth. Lewis exhaled, vindication and heartbreak mixing painfully. The gallery's energy tightened, coiling around Brandon like a net closing in. "That was not me," Brandon stammered. It was not serious. People joke. People talk tough. It does not mean anything." Judy's gaze hardened. "Mr. Hale, threats are not jokes. Harassment is not humor. And most importantly, patterns are not accidents." She gathered the papers, stacking them neatly before placing them back on the bench. "You knew exactly what you were doing." Brandon looked down, fingers trembling, the cracks in his swagger widening into fractures. Before anyone could speak again, Judy flipped to the last page. A small printed screenshot, half blurred but unmistakably incriminating. Her brow lifted. "Mr. Hale," she said slowly, "would you like to explain this message you sent at 2:43 in the morning?" Brandon froze. And for the first time, true fear entered his eyes. The courtroom monitor brightened again, casting pale light across Brandon's face. If the earlier video cracked his confidence, this next reveal shattered the illusion completely. Because there is a difference between arrogance and something darker. Judge Judy held the printed screenshot between two fingers, as if careful not to let its venom seep into her skin. 2:43 in the morning, she repeated, tapping the timestamp with her nail. You were awake, Mr. Hale, awake and sending threats. Brandon's breath stuttered. I was venting. People send stupid messages late at night. Stupid, she echoed. Let us examine that word. She nodded to the bailiff, who connected the flash drive again. A new image filled the courtroom screen. The message Brandon had typed in the middle of the night. No filters, no excuses, just raw text glowing in harsh digital white. Drop it or I will post everything. You think you were embarrassed before. I can destroy your life in hours. A collective gasp squeezed through the gallery. Even people who had come in skeptical leaned forward, their expressions sobering. Lewis stared at the message, his eyes dim with quiet pain, not revenge, not triumph. Pain. Brandon tried to speak. I was angry, okay. He kept demanding I take responsibility and I. You threatened him, Judy said, her voice level and cold. You weaponized humiliation. You used fear as a tool. Do you know what that makes you, Mr. Hale? Brandon's mouth opened, then closed. His eyes flickered between Judy, Lewis, and his mother, searching for a lifeline that did not exist. Do not answer, Judy added softly. Your messages have already spoken louder than you ever could. The room felt still, heavy. Even the fluorescent lights seemed dimmer, as if the truth itself had lowered the brightness out of respect for what had just been exposed. Lewis stepped forward. Your Honor, this is why I came. Not for money, not to punish him. I wanted someone to finally see what he does when no one is looking. Something in Brandon cracked at that. His shoulders dipped, the bravado draining like water from a broken glass. I did not mean to hurt anyone, he whispered. Lewis shook his head. But you did, and you laughed while doing it. Judge Judy let the silence expand. Not out of cruelty, but clarity. Silence can be a mirror when truth needs space to breathe. Then she exhaled slowly. Mr. Hale, patterns matter. You are not here because of a single mistake. You are here because you made cruelty a habit. The gallery remained silent, absorbing every syllable. Judy sat back. I believe we have seen enough from your side for the moment. It is time, she said, turning her gaze toward the side of the room, to hear from someone who has been waiting outside. Brandon's face drained. Who? Judy nodded to the bailiff. Bring in the witness. A shockwave of whispers rippled through the room. The door opened slowly, footsteps echoing in the hush. And when the witness stepped inside, Brandon's expression collapsed into pure dread. He knew exactly who it was. The door eased open with a soft mechanical sigh, the kind that announces change more than people do. A young man stepped inside, hands tucked into the sleeves of a worn hoodie, eyes heavy with secrets. And the moment Brandon saw him, the last of his composure drained out completely. He froze. Not the subtle kind, the outright, full-bodied stillness of someone watching their past walk toward them with a pulse. The witness was barely older than Brandon, maybe 18, with a nervous gait and a hollowed tension sitting behind his eyes. He hesitated at the center of the room, as if deciding, even now, whether to speak or run. Judge Judy studied him. State your name. The boy swallowed. Evan Carter. Brandon whispered a curse under his breath, a quiet, panicked thing meant only for his own ears, but the courtroom heard the fear in it. Judy nodded slowly. Mr. Carter, why are you here today? Evan looked at Brandon first, not with anger, with guilt, the kind that ages a young face too quickly. Because I should have spoken up last time. Lewis's brows lifted. Brandon's jaw locked. The mother closed her eyes as if she already knew. Judy gestured for him to continue. Evan's voice cracked on the first attempt, then steadied. I was there during the last incident, the one from the sealed file. I saw what happened. I saw how Brandon treated the guy. I saw him damage the fence. And I saw him threaten the guy afterward. Brandon lunged forward slightly. You do not know what you're talking about. Enough, Judy's voice cut the air like a blade. "Let him speak." Evan flinched, then nodded. "Brandon told me to back him up, to lie if I had to. He said if I did not, he would make it hell for me at school." Whispers fluttered through the gallery, disbelief blended with recognition. Bullying is quiet until someone gives it a voice. Evan's hands twisted together. "I was scared. I lied. I told the guy it was no big deal, that it was just a misunderstanding, but it was not." Judy leaned back, letting each word settle into the room like dust on a mirror. "And why come forward now?" Evan turned toward Lewis. "Because when I saw what he did to you, I realized I let it happen before, and I did not want to be that person again." The sincerity in his tone silenced the whispers. Brandon's voice cracked. "So what, you are pretending you were some kind of victim? You were in on it?" Evan shook his head. "No, Brandon, I was scared of you. There is a difference." The truth of it struck harder than any accusation. Judge Judy folded her hands, eyes narrowing with precision. "Mr. Carter, is there anything else you wish to share with the court?" Evan hesitated, the moment stretching thin. Then he reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled out a small phone. His thumb hovered over the screen. "There is one more thing." He unlocked the device. A voicemail icon glowed. "I saved this," Evan whispered, "just in case he ever did it again." The gallery held its breath. And Evan pressed play. The first sound was not a voice, it was a breath. Sharp, unsteady, the kind of breath that belongs to someone who enjoys power a little too much. Then Brandon's voice entered, cold enough to change the temperature of the room. The voicemail spilled out of the courtroom speakers in a grainy echo, but the emotion behind it was unmistakable. "Listen to me." Brandon's recorded voice was harsh, clipped. "People like him, they do not matter. They exist to fix my problems, not create new ones." A gasp traveled through the audience, followed by a heavy silence that swallowed the room whole. On the bench, Judge Judy did not blink. Her expression became carved stone, not angry, not shocked, just profoundly done with excuses. The recording continued. "If he tries anything, I will bury him online. I have followers who will believe anything I post. I can ruin him before lunch." Lewis's face tightened. He was not looking at the screen or the speakers. He was staring at the floor, jaw clenched, as if reliving every humiliation the voicemail had promised. Evan, the witness, took a small step back, guilt deepening in the tremble of his fingers. "I did not mean to keep it this long," he whispered. I did not know what to do." Brandon's mother covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes, but not the kind born from sorrow, the kind born from recognition. She had known pieces of this darkness, but never the whole shape. Then the recording shifted tone, darker. "I do not care about him. I care about winning. People like him forget their place. I remind them." The last words ricocheted through the courtroom like a physical blow. When the voicemail ended, the silence that followed was not empty. It was heavy, packed with realization and quiet shock. Even the bailiff, who had seen far worse cases, glanced toward Judge Judy with a rare hint of disgust. Brandon sat motionless, not frozen in fear, frozen in exposure. Every lie, every deflection, every ounce of bravado bled out of him in seconds. Judge Judy leaned forward, elbows gently touching the bench. "Mr. Hale," she said, "I want you to listen to one sentence very carefully." Brandon's eyes, glassy and lost, lifted slowly to meet hers. "You used your voice," she said, "to brand cruelty as confidence." He swallowed hard. "And now," she continued, "that same voice has unmasked you." The mother sobbed softly. Lewis finally looked up, eyes rimmed with exhaustion but also a strange kind of relief, the relief of finally being seen. Judy shifted her focus to Evan. "Mr. Carter, thank you for coming forward." He nodded, shoulders trembling under the weight of both guilt and courage. But before the judge could proceed, Lewis lifted a hesitant hand. "There is something strange, Your Honor." Judy turned. "What is it?" Lewis wet his lips, nerves rising. "I never received that voicemail. Someone else submitted it. Someone who wanted the truth out." A ripple passed through the room. Judge Judy narrowed her eyes, curiosity sharpening to a blade. "Then who," she asked, "sent it?" And the answer, when it arrived, would turn the case in an entirely new direction. The question hung in the air, sharp enough to cut through the silence. If Lewis had not submitted the voicemail, then someone else had been watching Brandon's behavior far more closely. And they were done staying quiet. Judge Judy leaned forward, hands folded, gaze steady. "Mr. Ortega, repeat what you just said." Lewis swallowed hard. "I did not send the voicemail, Your Honor. It showed up at my shop. No name, no note, just an envelope under my door." The gallery whispered, their murmurs swelling like static under fluorescent lights. Judy lifted her palm, silence returned instantly. So someone knew about this case, someone who wanted that message heard. Brandon's breathing grew uneven, panic flickering through his eyes. "This is ridiculous. Someone is trying to set me up. People are obsessed with me online." "Mr. Hale," Judy cut in, "this is not your social media feed. This is a courtroom." He shrank back. Lewis continued, "The envelope had no return address, but whoever sent it, they wanted the truth out. Maybe they were afraid to come forward themselves." Judy considered him, then turned to the bailiff. "We have someone waiting outside. Bring them in." Brandon jolted, eyes widening. Who is out there?" No one answered him. The door opened. Footsteps approached, lighter, hesitant, dragging a kind of emotional weight behind them. A small silhouette appeared in the doorway. A girl. Young. 14, maybe 15. Hands clenched around the straps of a faded backpack. Eyes red, not from crying recently, but from crying often. Brandon froze. Judge Judy's voice softened, recognizing the fragility of the moment. "Come in, sweetheart. Tell us your name." The girl stepped forward, voice trembling. Emily Hale." A gasp surged through the gallery. Brandon's mother pressed a hand to her chest, face crumpling. Brandon whispered, "No, Emily, what are you doing?" Judy nodded gently. "And how are you connected to this case, Emily?" The girl's eyes lifted, and in them was something heartbreaking, fear mixed with bravery. "Brandon is my brother." The air thinned. Judy's expression remained composed, but her gaze deepened. "Emily, did you send the voicemail?" Emily hesitated just long enough to reveal her internal war, then nodded once, small but firm. "Yes, Your Honor, I sent it." Brandon's voice cracked. "Why would you do that?" Emily's hands tightened around her backpack straps. "Because you hurt people, Brandon, and you never stop, not until someone else pays for it." Judy let the silence settle, giving space for a truth that had clearly been waiting years to surface. Emily continued, voice breaking. "I watched you yell at Mom. I watched you scare people at school. I watched you use your phone like a weapon. I could not let you do it again." Brandon blinked rapidly, the beginning of a collapse he could not hide. Louis stared at the girl with empathy. Evan looked down, recognizing the courage it took to do what he could not. Judy inhaled slowly. "Emily, you understand that what you did will have consequences." Emily nodded. "I know, but it was the only way to make him stop." Judge Judy leaned back, studying the fragile strength in the girl's posture. "Emily," she said softly, "is there something else you want to show us?" Because the girl's trembling hand was reaching toward her backpack zipper. Emily's fingers trembled on the zipper, the fabric of her backpack rustling like a warning. Everyone in the courtroom leaned forward. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. And Brandon, he went completely still, sensing that whatever came next wasn't just evidence, it was truth. Emily slowly unzipped her backpack. each inch revealing more of the emotional weight she carried. When she finally reached inside, her hand emerged clutching an old, slightly cracked phone, not hers, but Brandon's. The gallery gasped. Brandon lurched forward, voice cracking. "Emily, that's mine, give it back." Judge Judy raised her hand sharply. "Sit down." The authority in her tone turned Brandon to stone. Emily stepped closer to the bench, holding out the phone with both hands like someone offering a confession. "I kept it after he got his upgrade. He never noticed. He always leaves his old stuff lying around." Judy accepted the device, her expression unreadable but her eyes razor-focused. "Emily, why bring this? And why now?" Emily swallowed. Because the voicemail wasn't the only thing on it. He recorded everything: messages, videos, stuff he thought no one would ever see. Brandon's mother collapsed into her seat, hand over her mouth. Louis tensed, sensing another blow coming. Evan looked at the floor, guilt twisting his posture. Brandon's voice finally rose, frantic, wild. "She's lying. She's trying to make me look." "Mr. Hale," Judy snapped, "your sister has shown more courage in 5 minutes than you have in 17 years. Let her speak." Brandon sagged back, chest heaving. Emily continued, voice quivering but determined. "I sent the voicemail because I was scared of him, and tired of watching him hurt people, then laugh like it meant nothing, tired of waiting for Mom to step in, tired of being too afraid to tell the truth." Louis's gaze softened. Evan nodded, understanding too well. "But the real reason I'm here," Emily said, "is because there's another video on this phone, one he doesn't know I found." Judge Judy's voice lowered. "What kind of video?" Emily hesitated, then said words that dropped like stones onto the courtroom floor. "One where he's talking to himself." A ripple of confusion crossed the gallery. Brandon stiffened, face pale. Emily continued. "He wasn't talking to friends. He wasn't joking. He was in his room, staring into the mirror, saying things he planned to say to people, things he wished he could do to them." Judge Judy's eyes narrowed. "A rehearsal." Emily nodded. "A rehearsal of being cruel." The layers of the boy behind the arrogance, the fear, the emptiness, the need for control began to peel open. Judy turned the phone over in her hands, considering it with the weight of a judge and the intuition of someone who has seen the darkest parts of people. "Emily, did you bring this video with the intention of submitting it as evidence?" "Yes, Your Honor," she whispered. "I think you need to see it." The courtroom fell completely silent. Judge Judy looked at Brandon, not with anger, but with a chilling kind of understanding. "Mr. Hale," she said softly, "is there something you want to tell me before I open this file?" And Brandon's eyes, filled with a fear no arrogance could hide. Judge Judy tapped the screen of Brandon's old phone, and the room dimmed as the video loaded. Brandon's breath hitched, barely audible but enough. Because this wasn't a video meant for anyone else. This was the version of him he thought the world would never see. The screen flickered, then stabilized. A dimly lit bedroom appeared, Brandon's bedroom. Clothes scattered, LED lights glowing dull red along the corners. The phone rested propped against something, angled toward a full-length mirror. In the reflection stood Brandon. Not polished, not smirking, not posturing. Just stripped. Raw. Eyes hollow. Judge Judy leaned forward slightly but said nothing. She always let truth speak first. Brandon on the screen inhaled sharply, chest rising with a tremble. Then he began talking. Not to someone else. To himself. "You need to be tougher." Another breath. "People don't respect you unless they're scared of you." A collective intake of air rippled across the audience. Louis blinked, stunned. Evan's hands clenched. Emily's lip quivered. She had seen this side alone years before anyone else. Video Brandon paced in front of the mirror. If they don't listen, make them. If they laugh, humiliate them. If they push back, destroy them. His voice cracked on the last word. For a moment, the real Brandon in the courtroom looked like a ghost watching his own haunting. Video Brandon stopped pacing, jaw clenched, eyes wet. You have nothing if you're not in control. His reflection stared back at him, unforgiving. Nobody sees you unless you're loud, unless you're winning. Then his voice broke completely. Nobody cares about you when you're quiet. A shiver passed through the gallery. Not because the words were cruel, but because they were. They were desperate. Judge Judy's eyes softened, but only slightly. She had seen this before, the cost of building a personality on a foundation of fear. On the screen, Video Brandon slammed his palm against the dresser. So don't be weak, don't ever be weak. He stared into the mirror with a mix of self-loathing and command. Be the one they're scared of, always. The video cut off. Silence didn't just return, it landed, thick and heavy, like snowfall in a graveyard. Brandon stared at the table, shoulders shaking in small, involuntary movements. His mother was crying openly now, finally understanding the darkness she'd mistaken for confidence. Emily watched her brother with heartbreaking clarity, hurt, fear, and love twisted into one impossible knot. Louis let out a slow breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Evan blinked away guilt that had settled deep in his bones. Judge Judy placed the phone on the bench with careful precision. "Mr. Hale," she said softly, "this is not arrogance. This is pain." Brandon's eyes lifted, raw, desperate, exposed. "But pain," she continued, "does not excuse cruelty." His face crumpled. "And it certainly does not entitle someone to hurt others before they are hurt themselves." Brandon wiped his face, voice trembling. I didn't know anyone would see that." Judy nodded slowly. "That is the point, Mr. Hale. The version of yourself you hide is the one that reveals who you truly are." A thin silence stretched. Judge Judy leaned back. "And now," she said with quiet gravity, "we must decide what this truth means." But before she could continue, Louis stepped forward with something in his hand. Louis didn't move quickly. He moved deliberately, like someone approaching a fragile truth that might shatter if handled recklessly. He held a small object in his hand, wrapped in an old shop rag. Brandon watched him approach, eyes swollen, mask fractured beyond repair. Louis stopped just short of the bench, his voice soft but steady. "Your Honor, before you continue, I want to show you something I found after the accident." Judge Judy gestured for him to proceed. He unwrapped the rag carefully, revealing a tiny, polished metal emblem, the kind that attaches to the grille of a luxury car. The bright red enamel was chipped at the corner, a mark that matched perfectly with the dented garage frame shown earlier. Brandon's breath hitched. His mother pressed a hand to her chest. Emily took a step closer, instinctively protective even now. Louis held the emblem in both hands as tenderly as if it were a painful memory. "I didn't bring this to punish him. I kept it because I wanted to believe he'd come back and apologize. I waited outside for hours that day." His voice thinned. "He never came." Brandon crumbled inward, shoulders shaking. "I'm sorry," he whispered, but the words came out cracked, broken, barely audible. Judy let the silence absorb the apology without letting it overshadow responsibility. "Mr. Hale," she said, "this emblem isn't evidence of a crime. It's evidence of a moment you chose not to face." Brandon nodded, tears sliding unchecked down his face. Emily moved slightly toward her brother, torn between anger and compassion. It was a painful kind of closeness, the kind that existed only between siblings who had survived the same storms differently. Louis stepped back, wrapping the rag around the emblem again. "I'm not here to break him," he said quietly. "I'm here because someone needed to stop him before he breaks anyone else, including himself." Those words hit harder than any accusation. Brandon bowed his head, his voice so small it barely reached the bench. I didn't know how to stop. I thought if I wasn't the strongest, no one would see me. Judge Judy watched him with a sharp, deliberate empathy. Being seen, she said gently, has nothing to do with hurting people. In fact, cruelty makes you invisible in ways you will never understand. Brandon shook, the last pieces of his defense falling away. He wasn't hiding behind arrogance anymore. He was hiding behind grief, fear, and a lifetime of unsaid things. His mother finally stood, tears streaming. I should have helped him sooner, she whispered. I should have stopped this years ago. Judy lifted a hand, silencing the self-blame. You can't rewrite the past, but you can participate in the truth now. Emily stepped forward fully this time, placing a tentative hand on Brandon's shoulder. He flinched, not from anger, but from not knowing how to accept comfort. The gallery watched in a rare stillness, witnessing not just accountability, but collapse. Judge Judy inhaled, grounding the room. This is the moment, she said, where we decide what comes next, not for punishment, for change. She folded her hands. Mr. Hale, your consequences are not finished. Brandon lifted his red, trembling eyes. As of this moment, Judy said, we move into accountability. Judge Judy didn't reach for the gavel, she reached for clarity. There was no anger in her voice now, only precision. Brandon wasn't facing punishment, he was facing truth. The courtroom was quieter than it had been all morning, not out of fear, out of gravity. Everyone could feel the shift. This wasn't the storm anymore. This was the aftermath, the place where debris settled and injuries revealed themselves. Judge Judy folded her hands, speaking with the calm authority of someone who understood the difference between destruction and accountability. Mr. Hale, consequences are not cruelty. They are structure. And right now, structure is what you desperately need. Brandon nodded, eyes red, posture small. For the first time he was. And performing. He wasn't posturing, he wasn't deflecting, he was listening. Judy continued. You will pay the full cost of damages to Mr. Ortega's shop. That is non-negotiable. You caused harm and you will repair it. Lewis nodded once, not triumphant, just relieved that reality was finally catching up. Additionally, Judy said, you will compensate him for the days of lost work. Not because he needs the money, but because actions have ripples and you must learn to see beyond yourself. Brandon swallowed, yes, Your Honor. Judy shifted her gaze to the stack of digital threats. Regarding the harassment, intimidation, and online defamation, this court cannot issue criminal penalties, but I can issue formal civil sanctions. She slid a document forward. You will issue a written apology to both Mr. Ortega and the previous victim, reviewed and approved by this court. Brandon's lips parted in surprise. I will. Not a letter of excuses, Judy added. A letter of accountability. He nodded slowly. Judy then held up the old phone, the recording still frozen on Brandon's anguished reflection. And as for the behavior shown here, the fear, the performance, the cruelty born from insecurity, you need help, not punishment. Emily's eyes softened. Their mother pressed trembling fingers to her lips. You are ordered, Judy continued, to complete a counseling program focused on emotional regulation, digital responsibility, and interpersonal accountability. Not as a form of shame, but as a form of rebuilding. Brandon's voice cracked. I'll do it, I will. I don't want to be this person anymore. Judy studied him for a long moment, discerning, not judging. That, she said softly, is the only thing you've said today that sounds like the truth. Lewis exhaled, a slow release of months of frustration. Evan stared at the floor, relieved but still carrying the weight of the past. And Emily stepped closer to Brandon, a quiet signal that she wasn't giving up on her brother, not entirely. Judge Judy paused, letting the moment breathe. Mr. Hale, she said, none of what I've ordered is meant to destroy you. It is meant to ground you, because arrogance grows in soil where consequences do not exist. Brandon nodded, tears slipping down his face. And today, Judy finished, consequences finally found you. She looked to Lewis. Mr. Ortega, Judy asked gently, is there anything you wish to say before I issue final judgment? And the room held its breath, waiting for the mechanic's answer. Lewis didn't step forward at first, he breathed. A long, steady breath that carried months of anger and something softer underneath. The courtroom watched him, waiting to see whether he would strike or forgive. Lewis approached the bench with the hesitance of a man who had spent a lifetime working with damaged things, engines, frames, people. He wasn't the type to break what was already fragile. He glanced at Brandon, really looked at him. Not the arrogant teen who strutted into court hours earlier, but the trembling boy in front of him now, stripped of armor, crying without shame because there was nothing left to protect. Lewis exhaled. Your Honor, he began slowly, when this started I was angry, furious, not because of the money, not because of the damage. Brandon looked up, eyes rimmed with red. Lewis continued, I was angry because someone looked at me, someone who didn't know me, and decided I wasn't worth basic respect, that I could be stepped on because of who I am and what I do. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Judy listened, her expression soft but discerning. Lewis shifted his stance. But after seeing all this, the video, the messages, his sister, he swallowed, voice tightening. I don't think Brandon needs more anger. He needs a chance. Brandon blinked, stunned. Lewis turned fully toward him. Look, kid, you messed up bad. You hurt people, you scared people, you thought your voice gave you power. He paused, eyes steady. But power isn't how loud you are. It's how you act when someone gives you the chance to do better. Brandon's breath quivered. Why would you say that after everything I did? Lewis offered a sad, tired smile. Because somebody gave me that chance once, and I'm standing here today because they didn't give up on me. The words hit Brandon like a shockwave, a lifeline he didn't expect and didn't feel he deserved. Emily brushed a tear from her cheek. Their mother clasped her hands together, whispering something that sounded like a prayer. Judge Judy leaned forward slightly. Mr. Ortega, are you requesting leniency in the sanctions? Lewis shook his head. No, Your Honor, consequences are still consequences. He needs them. He looked back at Brandon. But I forgave you, not for you, for me. Silence fell, the good kind, the kind that heals instead of wounds. Brandon broke into a sob, shoulders shaking with the force of it. Emily moved beside him instinctively, placing her hand on his back. He didn't flinch this time. Lewis nodded once, then stepped back, returning to his place. Relief, sadness, and closure all warred quietly in his expression. Judge Judy took a thoughtful breath, letting the moment settle into the courtroom's walls. She lifted her gavel slowly, purposefully. Then let us finish this, she said, voice carrying the solemnity of truth. Because the final judgment was moments away. In your eyes, was this justice, mercy, or both? Judge Judy raised the gavel but didn't strike it. Not yet. The room wasn't just waiting for a verdict. It was waiting for the shape of a life to change. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, softer now, as if the entire courtroom had exhaled together. The morning's sharp tension had cooled into something quieter, heavier, the settling dust of truth. Brandon sat with his hands clasped, fingers trembling, face streaked with tears he no longer tried to hide. Emily sat beside him, a small but steady anchor. Their mother hovered behind them, breathing in the fragile space between regret and hope. Judge Judy lowered the gavel slightly and addressed the courtroom with a voice textured by purpose, not anger. Mr. Hale, she began, today was not about humiliation. It was about illumination. The truth has stepped into this room, and it will not be stepped on again. Brandon nodded barely. First, she said, You will pay full restitution to Mr. Ortega for the property damage, including lost income. This is a consequence, not revenge. Lewis bowed his head respectfully. Second, Judy continued, you will complete a structured counseling and behavioral responsibility program. Your cruelty did not grow overnight. Your healing will not either. But it must begin. Brandon swallowed hard, voice frayed. I understand. Good, Judy said, because understanding is the first skill you must learn. She turned her gaze toward Emily, softening ever so slightly. Your sister showed courage today. More courage than you have shown in a long time. If you take anything from this hearing, let it be that bravery does not come from dominance. It comes from honesty. Emily wiped her eyes. As for the digital harassment, Judy continued, sliding a paper toward Brandon, you will write formal apologies to both victims. They will be reviewed by this court, and they will reflect accountability, not excuses. Brandon nodded again, voice catching. I will, I swear I will. The gallery watched with breath held, even Evan, even the bailiff. Judge Judy straightened her posture, final words gathering like a storm that wasn't meant to frighten, but to cleanse. Young man, she said, you have spent years trying to be seen, but you chose the wrong tools: fear, intimidation, cruelty. Those tools don't build a life, they bury it. Brandon's chin trembled. But today, she added softly, you didn't just face consequences, you faced yourself, and that is the beginning of every real change a human being can make. Lewis's eyes warmed, not with forgiveness alone, but with recognition of a turning point hard-earned. Judy lifted the gavel fully now. This court finds in favor of the plaintiff. Restitution is ordered, sanctions are imposed, counseling is mandatory. She paused, the weight of the moment gathering in the silence. And Mr. Hale, what you do next will determine whether this day becomes a scar or a foundation.